What is a dirty business tactic that you know and everyone should be aware of it? People lie about salary, starting pay, raises, etc. all the time. Learn to play hardball. For a multi-million-dollar company, another $10-20k is nothing. My office had a lockdown on raises over 3%, and going into an annual review I learned that my boss had lied and underpaid me for the starting position. He claimed they had a $60k budget for the position and couldn't exceed it. I found out the last person in the job got paid $75k. So I got an offer from a competitor for over double my current pay. Knew they couldn't afford to lose me with the amount of work coming in, and slid my offer letter over to my boss during the review. They matched the offer, gave me a $10,000 bonus up front, and even cut me into a percentage of a business line. The meeting was awkward as hell, and it was difficult to do, but it's business. I know a guy who does pest control who specializes in raccoon removal. He takes the raccoons from one house in one neighborhood, then takes and releases it in another neighborhood, then waits for the people there to reach out to him to remove the raccoon from their home. Sounds like the raccoon is the mastermind behind this. It's all fun and games until the poor raccoon ends up a trigger-happy gun owner's house. If you're buying a used car, or any car for that matter, the check engine light should temporarily come on when you start the vehicle. If it doesn't, the dash has been tampered with to mask a potential issue. I solved this by leaving my check engine light on all the time. Found the VW owner. Dish Network's door-to-door salesman will tell you that it's fine to use your parents' name and social security number for your account if your credit prevents you from getting service. This is not okay. It's identity theft. Record them and get them fired. That's not even a sales trick. That's illegal. Good luck. The third-party retailer I worked for knew about it, but nobody was ever fired. At most they would be fined $500, but no one would be let go. The higher-ups didn't care as long as sales kept coming in. I waited tables in a restaurant, and one time I decided to pour a cup of soup into an empty bowl. A bowl of soup costs a good bit more than a cup of soup at the restaurant. The cup filled up the bowl to the top. When my grandmother was in the hospital, her landscaper and handyman both contacted me to tell me she hadn't paid them, and they'd been trying to reach her, and on and on. I'd already paid both bills from her account, and when I questioned them, they remembered real quick. Jacking Google business pages. Basically, if a Google business listing isn't claimed and controlled by a company, a competing company can weasel their way in and direct people to their business by, say, changing the phone number. There was an article recently about how drug counselors in the Philadelphia area had it happen to them. Their listing phone number was changed to an 800 number, which directed callers to an inpatient rehab facility in Florida. It was discovered when one of these counselors started noticing his patients suddenly not showing up. He called one of them and found out he was at this facility in Florida. Okay, gonna try to keep this brief. I actually wondered about this. When me and my boyfriend were living in Richmond, Virginia, he kinda got an itch for heroin. After trying about everything, it got to the point where I'd come home at the end of work and wonder what he pawned to get drug money next. After I told him that I'd be here for him, but he had to get help. If he didn't, it's me or the drug. He admitted he needed help. So I sat down with him and started calling Richmond numbers 804 and neighboring 757. One place was very receptive to helping him. Then we found out they were in Delray Beach, Florida. I suspected something was up when one lady, after being told we didn't have the financial means to get him to Florida, said, "Oh, don't worry, we'll pay for the plane ticket." Then everyone we talked to after that was like, "Yeah, we don't pay for airfare." Every time we talked to someone else with that company, different prices were named. After plane ticket lady, the price plus airfare was $1,800, then down to $700, then up, then down to $400. Different promises were made. Nothing was the same. Red flags started going off in my head like crazy, but my boyfriend was determined to get help and stay with me. The fact that they did that to us made me want blood. Here he is trying to get help, and they are toying with him, making it seem like help is accessible, then pulling it away. then bringing it back, then repeat. The totally absurd part is after I took the phone, they would call 5-6 times a day at all hours and told them off in late 2012/early 2013 telling them I don't know what fucking game you're playing, but shove off. They continue to call roughly twice a month 5 years later asking if his other attempts at seeking sobriety have failed and if they can resume the intake procedure. After all of that, I still don't have a company name for them, but blanket fuck rehab facilities in Delray Beach, Florida. Buying tickets online and being charged a convenience fee for the privilege of buying it online. $15 is not really convenient for me. I ended up not going to a few shows because the tickets were $30, but then with fees they were $60. I just couldn't justify it. In France it's hard to fire or lay off people, so when big companies need to clean house a bit, they move the office to a new location quite distant from the current one. In the process they reduce the office size from 50,000 seats to 30,000 because they've estimated that amount of people will resign rather than endure a 4 hours commute. But officially totally you still have your job if you want. We are not laying you off, but I need you in the office every day, or you could resign if you don't like the new location. Nestle did that, and apparently it's fairly common now for multinationals around Paris. I suspect they end up keeping a huge amount of deadwood, while valuable employees who can easily find another job in the same area do so. Seems really dumb, unless you just desperately need to trim employees and you don't care about quality. I'm deadwood. I commute 3 hours one way 5 days a week. I hate my life and my misery is palpable in my productivity. The customers end up suffering on the end, I assure you. So at least I'm not alone in my despair. I hate the choices I've made. Maybe it's not too late to make a choice you are proud of. Fake claims of another house offer with zero contingencies. We were young, first time home buyers. We found a house that we loved and was in our price range, albeit the high end of our range, but in there, nonetheless. We entered into negotiations with the seller's agent. While my husband and I were thinking the counter offer over, we received another call from our agent saying the seller's agent received an offer from someone with no contingencies. They could pay cash and sign that day. We knew we couldn't complete with that, and our agent urged us to rush over to her office to sign their counter offer and hope they would accept it, since we made our offer first. Of course they accepted, because there was no other offer. After all this went down, we were sharing our story with family and friends and we came to realize the seller's agency plays this card frequently. I wish my husband and I had been in a better place to fight their tactics. But we were buying in a location that didn't have many good houses in our price range. 2 years later, and we are pleased with our home, just not our mortgage. This happened to us. Sort of. We found a place we liked and put in an offer that was totally reasonable based on the asking price, recent sales in the area, all of that. Our agent called us back and told us that the seller's agent had basically called everyone who had ever looked at the house and said so someone put in an offer. Are you still interested? And turns out someone else, allegedly, was, and their counter offer was outside our budget, so we couldn't match. Our agent apologized profusely for this tactic, even going as far as calling the seller's agent unprofessional. On her advice we politely declined and continued our search. While we were in the process of looking for something else, our agent told us that the seller's agent had reached out because the other offer fell through. But the whole thing had really soured us to doing business with the sellers. So we passed a second time. Worked out for the best, since we found our current house shortly thereafter and paid less than we would have for more space in a cheaper area tax-wise. Always count every single note when exchanging currency. It's so easy for vendors, particularly smaller ones, to short bills from a stack of 100 or 1000 and claim innocence when, if, called out on it. At Home Depot and Lowe's there are cacti with plastic flowers glued onto them. If you ever get a demonstration of a service from a company, they will always use their very best, most experienced staff, but once you've signed up you might find you've got the dregs that they couldn't foist on anyone else working for you. Big Four accounting at its finest. Send in the partners to show expertise and personality. Then send in a herd of 22-year-olds to do the actual work. I worked in the collections department of Discover Card for a while. One thing they did, maybe still do, to lure customers to them is offer 0% APR for the first year. People would jump on this and transfer all their debt onto their new Discover Card, and then the company would conveniently not send the first month's bill. In the fine print of the agreement, it states that if you miss even one payment in that first year, your APR will jump to 29.95%. Half of my calls were to these new customers who would then proceed to throw a fit because they didn't ever get the bill, and I had to explain to them that it was their job to know when the bill was due, and sending one was just a courtesy extended by the company. I hated that job. It ate away at my soul. Petco will sell you non-aquatic plants specifically for your aquarium that will poison everything in the tank. Petco is horrendous. One of the few times I've ever called a corporate office was when my wife and I walked into a Petco and noticed a tank full of rats were lying in an inch of water from a broken water bottle. We told 2 staff members who barely even acknowledged we'd spoken. The third employee was the woman at checkout, who quietly told us we should call their corporate. She seemed to be the only one who cared, including the person on the phone. Debt collectors will have detectives call you from a number that appears to be a legitimate law enforcement agency. When you Google it, it's actually a spoofed caller ID using a legitimate agency's fax number. The detective will threaten arrest and throw around names of local judges. The debt collector will claim to not know the detective who left the message, but will be willing to take care of your debt. Edit time. Yes, it's illegal, but it's very hard to prove, and that's why they do it. Law enforcement or courts will only call you in the case of theft, like a hot check, but will never call for an old debt. It's civil and they don't have jurisdiction. I think my phone has a bad connection. Let me call you right back on the department number. What's your name/badge, so I can get the receipt to direct me back to you? Do this for everything, even on seemingly innocuous stuff, especially if your bank's fraud department is calling you and asking questions. My bank's fraud department is automated. If it detects fraud, then you get a call with a simple "Do you recognize these last 6 charges?" Press 1 for yes, 2 for no. You input no personal information. No person contacts you asking about stuff. I travel a lot, so my card gets flagged for fraud relatively often. Then again, it does look suspicious as hell to have charges in 4 states across 3 time zones in a 24-hour period, so I appreciate their diligence. In Nova Scotia, Canada, severance pay is paid on the average of your last 30 days of pay. This means that some companies will actually reduce your hours to minimum your last month with them if they are going to lay you off. Happened to me wife. She worked for this company for 5 years, worked 35+ hours per week. Suddenly she wasn't getting shifts. Boom. Layoff notice. Happened to other folks too. Call the labor board. IDK about in Nova Scotia, but here in Ontario that's illegal. Even if she quit because she wasn't getting enough hours due to them reducing it, she'd still be entitled to pay. They cannot reduce your hours by more than a certain percent each week. Can't remember the percent. Can tell you I have fought this and won. This is known as constructive dismissal, where the terms of your employment change so drastically that the labor board considers it equivalent to being fired. You should be entitled to employment benefits based on the hours prior to your constructive dismissal. When I was in the process of moving into my current home, I transferred the title of my old home and land to my sister because she was buying it and moving in when I left. Within the next few weeks she started getting all the welcome to the neighborhood coupons and flyers. She didn't even change her address, so I assume companies track title changes with the Register of Deeds. The sketchiest was a pest control company claiming to have an existing account on the property and recommending she continue to use their services. They detailed dates and changes, referenced termites. It was all lies. All the dates shown were while I owned the property, and I never even heard of this company before she received that letter. Mattress stores that have the find it anywhere else for cheaper. You get your money back deal contract with the manufacturer to make the exact same model of bed, but with a model name specific to that store. so nobody can ever cash in on that deal. Mattress stores, the gurus of sleazy tactics. Buying a car from a buy here, pay here dealership. You put $500 or $1,000 down, they say you are approved, and you drive the car home. 2 days later the dealership calls and says that they couldn't get you financed at that down payment and interest rate, so we need an additional $2,500 down, and your interest rate doubles. If you don't have the extra money, they take the car and your original down payment. This is an old gag and new car dealers do it too. A dealer told me, I can slap temp tags on this tonight and you can go home and show it off to the neighbors. We'll finish the paperwork tomorrow. I said no. Others didn't and got screwed. Not only are the terms of the deal and interest rate changed, if you try to back out of the deal, they will nail you. This is a used car now. We can't take it back, except as a trade-in. $3,000 for one night's use of a car, or take their price and interest terms. Slimy. Went through the same situation. They called me and said the deal wasn't finalized, and the bank wanted either more money down or more per month. This was about a month after I bought the car. I said no dice. I signed paperwork. They came back with, oh, you didn't sign all of it. I told them to come get the car. The keys will be in the trunk. They told me that it would count as a repo. So I drove out to the dealership and dropped it off. Best part was I put zero down. Not even a trade-in. So I drove a brand new car for a month with satellite radio and didn't pay a dime. Oh, and I did some traveling while I had it too. Put 1,000 miles on it. Needless to say, the salesman was pretty pissed off when he checked the car out. But hey, I didn't sign all the paperwork. Maybe not dirty, but incompetent contractors will often way underbid jobs. So if you request a bunch of quotes, and all the bids are relatively close except for one that's way lower, there's roughly a 100% chance that guy will screw it up, and you'll have a nightmare on your hands. Sometimes you get what you pay for. Also, FWTW, if a bid is high, it probably means they don't want the job. Edit, for everyone asking why you would bid high rather than just reject the job. It's considered unprofessional to just not bid a job. It leaves a sour taste in customers' mouths when you just outright don't even give them a price. Reasons you don't want the job could include: 1. You're out of manpower and can't staff it. 2. There's something about the job that makes you not want to deal with it. For example, fixing an air conditioning that wasn't installed right means you could be looking at a job that is actually going to take months, still not be right after you're done, and the customer could blame you, not the original contractor. No thanks. 3. Customer is an asshole or difficult in some way. He might have non-asshole friends. However, you don't want him bad-mouthing to, so the goal is, don't piss him off, but also try not to work for him either. Edit 2, should have put this in the original comment. Sometimes they will outright steal from you, or half do a job, take the money and run. They count on you being either too poor or too passive to take them to court. In any type of vendor negotiations or productions, always triple bid, i.e., get at least 3 bids. If all 3 come in around the same price, choose your favorite. If one is an extreme outlier, either high or low, then you can throw them out. They are either overcharging, scoped incorrectly, or undercharging and will hit you with another bill later on for add-ons. The bids that come in at a similar price point are probably a fair price. If you get 3 bids and they are all massively different in price, then the scope of the assignment probably wasn't clear. When finding a home for your elderly parents, set up an appointment, but come in a few minutes early and say, "Don't ask if you can walk around for a quick look." The receptionist likely won't refuse you, and the salesperson won't be ready for you. These places like to show you only the stuff they want you to see when being led around by a salesperson. Chat with a resident or a staff member. They'll be the most honest with you. I did exactly this when looking for daycare for my kids. Showed up randomly one morning and asked if I could look around without going into any rooms. Just from the hallway eyes I told them why I was there. Yes, they took down my ID. Yes, I agreed to have one of their staff walk with me. And yes, I did ask the room staff questions on my rounds. Offering insurance on anything that does not have the potential to be financially debilitating. Want to insure your DVD rental? Fuck off.